Bill Belichick, one of the greatest NFL coaches of all time, mentored Eric Mangini from ball boy to head coach. To say thanks, Mangini ruined Belichick's legacy. Whoops. Bill Belichick doesn't really give off vibes that say, I have friends. He usually seems upset with something or someone. His conversational skills are often extremely lacking. And, well, this is how he looked after his team won a game 27-0. What hapless ghoul would want to hang out with this? Meet Eric Mangini. He's the guy holding the child that Belichick is tickling, not the actual kid. He and Belichick first met in Cleveland, where Mangini was a 23-year-old ball boy and Bill, the head coach. Belichick had risen through the NFL ranks over the previous 2 decades, becoming best known for his defensive coordinator work with the Giants. It was there that he won his first 2 Super Bowls and showed an ability to really rock a sweater. Once in Cleveland, he looked to pay it forward. Mangini caught the coach's eye. He liked the kid's work ethic and attention to detail, so when the ball boys' days were coming to an end in Cleveland, Belichick asked around about what they were going to do with that Eric kid. A few days later, that Eric kid was an offensive assistant. When Belichick joined the Jets in '97, he brought Eric with him. And when he jumped ship to the Patriots after his Jets coach for a day incident, Bill made room in his lifeboat for the kid. The pairing made sense. Mangini was a smart guy who soaked up every detail he could under Belichick. Similar to Bill, Mangini had done whatever he could to get experience, even if somewhat unorthodox. A lot of folks focused on them sharing an alma mater as well as a fraternity, but while that surely would never be the reason someone got a job in the NFL, it is what many friendships are based on. By 2005, Mangini was not just Belichick's friend. He was also Bill's defensive coordinator. That gave Belichick an opportunity to praise Mangini in the only way he knows how, factually based and to the point. But it was true. He had done a great job for the team, and he kept doing a great job for one more season. Now tell me if you've heard this one before. In 2005, the Patriots made the playoffs, and the Jets did not. New York needed a head coach for their 4-12 team, so they looked to New England. Had they looked during the fourth quarter of New England's wildcard game, they would have seen Asante Samuel cap off a fantastic Patriots defensive performance with a pick 6. Then, Belichick showing, is that affection? Right here, Belichick might as well have slapped a hire me sign on Mangini's back. The Jets wanted this newer, younger Belichick. Belichick wanted to keep conversation on their next playoff game, but he also let his feelings for Mangini shine. He even used the F word. But New England received a few reasons to say the other F word. Their loss to Denver meant that the Jets could officially interview Mangini. A couple days later, the Jets officially named Mangini their new head coach. Now, I emphasize officially because rumors popped up immediately. There was talk that not only had Mangini agreed to the job before the Denver game, but he'd also put out feelers for which Patriots coaches or players might want to desert with him. Belichick allegedly responded by changing the locks at Gillette so Mangini couldn't get his stuff. True or not, both coaches played nice in public. Mangini continued to credit Belichick for everything he knew about coaching. Belichick respected the move, and other than having to share the AFC East, he seemed happy. But when noting how often he'd hired Mangini, Belichick mentioned that actions speak louder than words. An interesting choice of phrase based on how many actions and how few words lay ahead. They began with some big brother, little brother dynamics. When Belichick wanted something, well, no surprise if Mangini wanted it too. That desire for similar athletes quickly caught Belichick's eye. At the start of the 2006 season, the Patriots looked to move Deion Branch. They told the receiver he could talk to teams about contract extensions to facilitate a trade. The Jets were one of those teams interested. Although New York didn't land the receiver, they did receive something else from New England: tampering charges. The Patriots claimed the Jets had given Branch information they shouldn't have, information that could have impacted potential trades. Mangini said they did nothing wrong and looked to just move on. New England got a first-round pick, Seattle got Branch, it's over. Conveniently, this all took place just before the Jets hosted the Patriots. That timing might have justified why Mangini was like, oh no, I'd never do something bad to Bill, my dearest friend who I will definitely call a friend my entire life. Admittedly, he and his friend hadn't been too chatty. But the nice thing about football is it forces people to be around each other. Following a New England victory, the spotlight swung to midfield for this fairly normal handshake aside from the crowd. Yet, the media tore it to shreds. They found out the only words Belichick could muster were good game. They wanted emotion, they wanted affection, they wanted something Belichick wasn't really known for. When Belichick made the case that it wasn't one coach versus the other, but the Patriots versus the Jets, reporters pointed out his inability to refer to Mangini by name, which made him a baby. Little Billy Babycheck. These handshakes became the focus of this beef. In their second matchup, Mangini's defensive plan harassed Tom Brady all day, which helped the Jets pull off an upset. Belichick looked stunned as the final whistle blew, and with handshake number 2, you could see the awkwardness a bit more clearly. Mangini described it after the game as a fairly one-sided affair, but it made sense. The Jets were just a game back from the Pats. Belichick's mentee had been proclaimed the man genius. There was no escaping the narrative of coach versus coach, and any conflict between them just made that talk louder. So, good news. They met in the playoffs. The game was closer than the final score, but the bigger outcome was one more inevitably awkward handshake. This poor cameraman got in Belichick's way before a moment so absurd, Jim Nantz had to confirm what the viewers witnessed.
How about that? This time a hug. This time a hug.
After a flash where it looked like Belichick could either punch Mangini or kiss him, he settled for the in-between, and everyone could shut up about this duo. That offseason, Belichick opened up a little about Mangini's departure. Clearly hurt by the move, he seemed ready to move on and be friends again. Sure, there were still moments like the Jets bringing in players the Patriots had just cut, but when Brady pointed out that that's part of the process, you have to remember where Mangini got his processes from. He regularly confessed to learning everything from Belichick. Mangini witnessed firsthand what went into the Patriots' success, and now wanted to use that to find success of his own. Mangini had used those Patriot ways to turn a 4-win team into a contender, an impressive start that he looked to improve on in year 2, which just so happened to kick off against the Patriots. Wild how that happens. You know the drill at this point. The result, a Patriots blowout, didn't matter. But this time, the emotionless greeting at the end also didn't matter, because, well, cheating. During the game, the Jets noticed New England camera operators filming New York's coaching signals. This is totally legal, if the camera operators follow certain instructions. However, they were down on the sideline, which is a definite no-no. Mangini and the Jets alerted the league to this, and the fun kicked off. Commissioner Roger Goodell quickly swooped in to announce New England violated the rules. Belichick issued an apology, saying he thought they followed the guidelines but must have misinterpreted something. The league essentially replied, "No, we reminded everyone about the rules last year and made it pretty clear you can't be on the sideline." Goodell handed Belichick the largest fine he could. He also fined the Pats and took away what eventually became a first-round draft pick. After Goodell handed out punishment, he then asked to see what New England had filmed. The league reviewed it and found nothing else, but they also just destroyed all the tapes, which kind of ended the potential for escalation. Reaction to the news varied. Hall of Fame coach Jimmy Johnson said Belichick did what everyone else does, he just got caught. Others took issue with how the league handled the punishment before reviewing the materials, especially doing so pretty swiftly. It reignited conversations like Hines Ward believing the Pats cheated during an AFC championship. Same went for the Eagles in the 2005 Super Bowl. And had there been validity in those specific claims, well, a former Patriots defensive coach like Mangini would have been pretty aware of those spy-based shenanigans. Hell, later in the 2007 season, allegations came out that Mangini had actually done the same thing against the Pats in their playoff game the year prior. New England just didn't loop in the NFL. And Mangini suffered some blowback as well. An anonymous coach flagged his shock that the situation didn't just play out behind closed doors. He figured a warning would have sufficed, which maybe that had happened and this was an escalation, but based on Mangini's earlier admission, that's a little doubtful. Regardless of who did what and when, Belichick's bunch got labeled as cheaters. And one big question was, how would this impact the 2007 Patriots? Well, they went 16-0. So, thanks a lot, Mangini. Ahead of the second Pats-Jets showdown, Belichick swore there wasn't any extra motivation. But when you're a 24-point favorite, do you really need extra motivation? When asked about Mangini, Belichick shrugged it off with a "I've talked about him enough" mindset. As for Mangini, he continued to state how impactful Belichick had been on his career, and believed nothing had changed since September. But to me, this queasy look after the game says otherwise. We can't see Bill, but don't worry, the newspapers were not going to miss this moment. He smiled. Friendship's back on the menu. Let's just jump ahead and see what happiness had in store. No. Belichick completely stopped talking to his former protege. This 2016 admission was one of some honestly pretty depressing statements from Mangini, who was holding out hope that their friendship could pick back up someday. Belichick was someone who Mangini named one of his sons after, but now couldn't even have a conversation with him. Mangini held a lot of regret. Spygate had blown up more than he'd expected. What was meant to be a message for Bill to understand he couldn't do that in Mangini's house turned into, well, Spygate. But it kept snowballing. The way the league handled it further unraveled the situation. The idea that the Patriots cheated stuck. So the next time they faced accusations, something about balls being deflated or whatever, some people believed that the league handled the new gate in a stricter way to make up for how they rushed through Spygate. Whether or not that's true, the person who got the snowball rolling doesn't change. This beef cost both of these guys a friendship they clearly cared about. For Bill, a little extra damage was done to his legacy. And Mangini has to sit there knowing that's on him, hoping they can eventually go back to the old days. Possible? Sure. Likely? Well, when Belichick said that actions speak louder than words, what's even more deafening is just not saying a goddamn thing. Hey, thanks for making it this far. If you want more beef, I think you'd enjoy the Harbaugh-Sherman episode just to keep the coach vibes going. Or here's something a little different, but still up your alley. Trust me, it might not be beef, but it's still juicy.